Hello again, everybody. Welcome to the program this week. David Johnson is going to be joining us in a few minutes. We'll talk about some other games coming up on Friday night as high school football in the area goes into week 2. But joining us right now, the head football coach at Walnut Grove High School, Coach Ben Reeves. First of all, congratulations. Big win Friday night for you.
It was a big win, a good win. First win, opening win we've had here at the Grove.
And I know that we were talking last week about getting the lead in the fourth quarter and holding on to it. You did that Friday night.
Yes, sir. That's, you know what, we've got a few goals set. That's one of them to win the fourth quarter. And so that was big for us to achieve early on a goal we think we have to meet to continue to win.
And you were telling me that you made some mistakes Friday night, and it could have been maybe a few more points on the board had you not made those mistakes.
Well, I'm a football coach, so we can always say that. We could have put a few on the board, but we did. Our kids, I tell you what, we made some mistakes and overcome those mistakes and continued to play hard for each other. And that's ultimately why we got the win. We continued to play hard and just overcome those mistakes, and we'll get better at those.
All right, coming up on Friday night, of course, a big county rivalry with a team that really left a bad taste in your mouth last year, Monroe area. It's got to be an emotional game coming up for you.
Well, it's a crosstown rival, number one. So those are always a lot of fun. And yes, I hadn't had a problem having something to think about if they whooped me like that last year. So it's given me plenty to ponder about. So we're looking forward to it, just the rivalry game, the emotion that will go into it. And really, the biggest thing is the playoff kind of atmosphere. We're hoping we can achieve that this year and just seeing how we respond in those kind of situations.
Of course, Monroe doesn't have exactly the same personnel this year, but they still got some talent.
Oh yeah, they got a lot of good players. They hadn't missed a beat too much, so by no means are we taking anything for granted. We know they're a very good football team with good football players, and so we're gonna have to really bring our A game to be able to compete with them.
What are you going to have to do this week that maybe you didn't do last week to pull out a win?
Well, continue to work on our execution on offense and defensively. Just keep tackling well. And, I feel like we got a good coaching staff and we've got pretty good game plans week to week, and just find a little bit more consistency in what we're trying to do.
Can you tell the kids are getting psyched up after last year and that big differential between the scores and a local rivalry? Can you tell at practice?
Well, I tell you what, this week's not been a problem. Get on the field and practice. They're excited. But that's, we try to take it week to week, and Monroe is just the next game this week. And we just really try to focus on 1 week at a time, and one another week to week. That's sort of our motto and what we talk about doing. And it makes it even a little bit better that we're playing Monroe to help us focus in and maybe listen to the coaching on a little deeper basis for the game like this week.
All right. Can you, going back to last year's ball game, they just out-athlete you?
You know what, they had a ton of athletes. There's no doubt that it was that. And, we didn't help ourselves any. We had a lot of turnovers in that game, and then with a good football team, Monroe or whoever, they're going to make that hurt. We had quite a number of turnovers. They turned into points, and they had a lot of athletes on the field to contend with, and that's why they were good like they were the last couple of years.
I got a chance to see them in Loganville on Friday night. Well, you go into a game against a team. You beat Loganville in a scrimmage. Loganville beats Monroe area. Do you feel that maybe you're going to be favored against a team that hung 75 on you a year ago?
You know what? Unfortunately, I don't think we're ever going to be favored. And that's good. That's sort of a rally cry for us. And as far as who beat who, you can throw that out the window when you play rivalry games. It doesn't injuries or who's beating who. That doesn't have much stock when you're playing inter-county rivalries. It's just the execution on that game night, the game plan, the consistency of the kids on the field. I think that's the biggest difference.
All We talked about the fact that just another ball game on the schedule, but I know these kids are going to be fired up. Could they possibly get maybe too emotional going into that game?
Well, I hope we have a ton of emotion because that's what we didn't have here last year. So I hope there's a lot of emotion in the game, and keeping that emotion contained between the whistle would be a good thing. So I hope we have a lot of emotion running into the game, and we use it whistle to whistle, and that'll be just fine with me.
Did you find yourself, you changing regions this year? Did you find yourself looking at the other schools in Region 4 this year?
No, sir. I tell you what, we'll worry about that down the road.
Yeah.
As I asked my kids to do as coaches, we need to do the same thing and just look at what we've got on schedule the next week and do the best job we can to prepare and put a game plan together to win that game.
All right, kickoff time at Monroe area on Friday night is going to be at 7:30. You got to go on the road, but I know you're going to take your crowd.
Yes, sir. I hope so. The Grove is a home opener. Was just really nice to see the crowd, and it's going to be exciting to have a big crowd from the Grove there on Friday night.
All right, good luck, Ben.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's go back to the studio. David and I are going to talk more about Friday night's action. All right, Dave, before we go into this week's schedule, let's talk about last week's. I saw Loganville and Monroe area. You got to look at Walnut Grove. So you tell me about Walnut Grove, then we'll talk about some other ones.
Okay, yeah, Walnut Grove, they are much improved over, they've obviously struggled to get their program started. They've won with 5 games in 4 varsity seasons, but this year they won their opener for the first time in school history, so that's a plus. You saw some good things. Unfortunately, there was a lot of bad things too. They had over 100 yards in penalties, a couple interceptions. They muffed 3 punts, which they recovered them all, but still, that kind of concerns you. But nonetheless, in years past, had they done all that, it might have been a disaster. But as it was, they hung in there. They have some talent, and they're able to overcome a lot of mistakes against which was a surprisingly good Monticello team. I know Monticello has struggled over the years, but they had a lot of talent. It was a good team, but again, Walnut Grove in years past, this would have been disastrous with all those mistakes. But as it was. The good news, they made a lot of mistakes and were able to overcome them and pick up that first season opening win.
Well, I was over at Loganville last week, and I talked to Coach Mike Parris earlier in the week and asked him if he was going to be running the same tailback-oriented offense that Eric Godfrey had run over there for so many years. And he said no, they were going to throw the football more than Godfrey did. But now you come up with a tailback with 240 yards rushing. And he really looked good in the ball game against Monroe area. And I'm trying to keep talking until I can remember his name.
Daryl Giles.
That's Daryl Giles.
And it's funny because in talking with Coach earlier in the season when we were compiling our top 11 players from the county that we ran, I kind of thought he might mention Daryl because I remember seeing him last year as a freshman, and he looked pretty good. And I think it was kind of his little secret because he never mentioned him when I would ask about him. He would just kind of be a little coy about him. But clearly he's the man. I mean, he's just a sophomore, and he's a relatively small kid. He's not really big. But, man, he can move, and you saw what he did against Monroe.
Loganville used 3 quarterbacks in that ball game, and really not much difference at all between the 3 Monroe areas. He's got a lot of athletes again. Alfred King looked good when they ran the Wildcat formation, and Olsen throws the ball pretty well too. So I don't know. We'll see more about it on Friday night. So you didn't get a chance to see George Walton last week. What's the talk around school about them?
Well, their numbers are way down. It's really kind of shocking to look down on the sideline and see only about 25 or 30 kids dressed out. So their numbers are down. Obviously, without Stanley, without a lot of the seniors they had, they lost a lot of kids. So they're very young. Numbers are not there, but sometimes it's addition by subtraction. They don't have Stanley to fall back on and count on him to win every game for them. But yet, I think you have a more unified team and a better team morale. And they've got Demetrius Mason, who's a really solid athlete. He caught a pass and caught a touchdown pass, ran for one last week. He's not the caliber of Stanley, but yet he's a very good athlete, and so he can do some things for them. They've got Tucker Scholl, a quarterback who's been there before. So, and their defense looked pretty solid. Of course, I don't know about the competition last week, but they only gave up 6 points, which compared with last year when they were averaging giving up double digits. So, jury's still out on this team. We'll find out a week after next Friday when they play Prince Avenue. and that'll tell us a lot.
Social Circle held the lead at halftime last Friday night, and have you seen that new facility over there?
Yeah, it's
man.
impressive. It is impressive, right? So yeah, it's great for them. I'm excited for them. But again, you spend $2 million, you build all this stuff up. You want to put a good product on it, and so hopefully things are turning. Just the fact that they were actually winning at halftime. I mean, I know they didn't go on to win, but that's huge for a program that leads the state right now with the longest losing streak in the state. You know, they just need some positives, and clearly the fact they were ahead, their quarterback Brock, he looked really solid. So yeah, I mean, you got to feel good. Next step is obviously to get a win, but you got to feel good about how things turned out last week.
All right, a light schedule, and that's a little bit weird for this time of the year, but Loganville's off this week, Social Circle's off. The big game, Walnut Grove against Monroe area. And I put this question to Ben Reeves earlier in the program. Do you think that a year after a 75-0 loss, your team could be favored?
I mean, that's probably a stretch. I mean, at best, this game's a toss-up.
Mm-hmm.
I'd still, if I had to put money on it, I'd still go with Monroe just because they've been there before. They do, despite what happened last week, they do have the athletes.
Yeah.
I can't help but think that coach is kind of holding back a little bit. I know, you know, he's not from here. These rivalry games probably don't mean as much to him as it does to the kids. I think maybe he's holding back and holding out until region begins, and then he's really going to show his hand. So, so Solkowski, he could be doing that, or clearly they're down this year. You don't lose 23 seniors the caliber they did without hurting some. I wouldn't put Walnut Grove as a favorite, but it's not going to be 75-0 again.
No, that's
safe
not.
to say.
And it's strange you say that too, because I was doing radio also for that ball game last week. They put King, who's by the way wearing number 1 like Troy did the last couple of years, put him in the Wildcat. And they moved the ball right down the field, and they immediately got out of it. And I said, I wonder if he's trying not to show too much.
Yeah, and that's what I wondered, you know, and not to take anything away from Loganville. I'm not shocked that they won that game. I felt that was a toss-up as well, although I felt like Monroe would win. But yeah, I just, knowing Solkowski again, he's not from around here. These rivalry, he's interested in getting in the playoffs. He's not. He's told me personally he doesn't care if they get in with a 10-0 record or a 6-4 record. He just wants to get in. So you know, clearly the region games are the ones that matter, and we'll find out.
All right, it's going to be at Monroe. Going to be a really good football game, and you haven't been able to say that the last 3 or 4 years. George Walton, the other school nearby, LCA is going to be on the road, but George Walton is going to be home against Holy Innocents.
And yeah, this is a team they've handled easily the past couple of years. They beat them by 20 and 30 points the past couple of years. That wasn't really an indication of what Holy Innocents had. They went on to make the playoffs both years, and of course last year George Walton stayed home. So again, George Walton should win this one based on comparative records. I think Holy Innocents is 0-2 right now. They've lost by a combined 70 points. So it looks like on paper they're really struggling. But again, this game, it doesn't really matter to either team. It's not region yet. I think it matters to George Walton to really build up some momentum and get ready for next week, the following week, when their region schedule kicks in. And they get to host Prince Avenue, which probably is the best team in the region and probably one of the best teams in the state right now. So I think this game is more just for trying to build momentum and stay healthy as they get ready for their region run.
All right, and as we said, LCA is going to be at Unity, and Covenant Christian, who we cover a little bit here at the Walton Tribune. They're going to be at home Bay Creek Park over in Gwinnett. But a light schedule, and we appreciate you joining us. Get out and see some football on Friday night. We'll talk to you next week.